This week, a grown man named Chip led congressional hearings against federal abortion protections. Of course.
Of course. It was a who's who of who's the biggest misogynist, and we have all the details.
Plus, it's always fun when they create male birth control and work out all the bugs so it goes down easier than an 18-year single malt scotch.
Who do I gotta punch?
Some dudes.
Deep breaths. We have a great show. We have great guests. Lupe Rodríguez is here, Executive Director of the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice. And she's going to talk about the Latina Institute, what they do, and the intersection of reproductive justice and immigration justice.
Plus, a man I can get behind, comedian Max Higgins shares his transition story in his new special, The Underdog, morphing from a straight woman to a gay man at a flash. Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew. All this coming up on this episode of the Feminist Buzzkills Podcast, the show that's ready to throw our hat in the ring for Surgeon General.
With both of us, they'd get a 2 for Liz.
They'd get a 2-fer. I'm Liz Winstead, and that is my illustrious co-host, Moji Alabodiel.
Hi, Liz.
A lot of show, a lot of Moji.
Hey, y'all.
You know, Moji, I don't think I care how much the, misandry vibes are pouring off of this podcast in recent weeks.
It's not just the podcast, Liz. It's my life.
It's life, and I try to, I'm trying to watch Hacks, but then, you're just, trying to invite other things into your life, and then you can't avoid it.
They're everywhere, Liz.
Everywhere. This Russell Brand.
Honestly, that's a man whose name we shouldn't say because he is a fuckboy and there's no other word for it. And he's always been one. But you go on, Liz. Go ahead. Talk about him.
I was trying to avoid, I was seeing snippets of him being on Piers Morgan. Well, going to court with his Bible, which they have a Bible in court. They provide a Bible.
BYOB, Liz, BYOB.
Yeah. And so then he brings his Bible to court, and then he goes on Piers Morgan with his Bible. And then Piers Morgan's like, is that the Bible you brought to court? And he's like, yes, it is. And then he's like, what are some of the passages that you go to for comfort? First of all, I thought he was going to open the Bible and there would just be a cutout for a bottle of scotch in there.
It would be on brand.
It would be on Russell Brand.
On Russell Brand. It would be on Russell Brand.
And then he spent, I don't know what felt like an eternity, scouring and offshooting and deflecting and finding no Bible passage that he could actually quote or know or do.
I mean, obviously, for me, I think this Bible thing is a performance because it really is. If you can see the sexual assaulter to Bible thumper or sexual assaulter to spirituality pipeline, and he is just running down that freeway, running up that hill.
He is very Kate Bushy. Kate Bushing it. I'm running up that road. He'll be
running up that hill. I'm like, oh, you're talking about the same guy who I believe was known for ending his marriage to Katy Perry on a text. He sent her a text. Yeah, that's a thing he did.
He was also justifying, the technicalities around being 30 and having sex with a 16-year-old when it was legal. It's like
in England.
Stop. And it's just every moment. And it's so fast that these assholes will, Russell Brand should not be embraced by the Christian right. And yet all's forgiven because you accept Jesus. And this is what's so irritating. It's always between them and their God when it comes to them sticking their dicks into anything. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about abortion and it's
that's their business as well.
Between me and my God. Then it's no, it's not. It's between you and your politician and your boss and your husband and some guy on the street and somebody's uncle.
All those people. And then we'll get to the pregnant person who may or may not want to be pregnant.
100%. It's such a crock of shit. So he's just my latest, I can't escape it and fuck you.
He's been on my shit list for at least a decade. So welcome to the team, Liz. I know you were there. I'm joking. I know you were there.
Yeah. I wasn't on any Russell Brand fence, everybody, as Moji would like you to believe. So let's just be clear about that. All right, let's move on from Russell Brand. I shouldn't have even brought it up, but I just couldn't believe that I couldn't avoid it. And then it was just every week, again, why we choose the bear. I might get that tattooed on my forehead.
Yeah, it would clarify things. Seriously, the bear is not on any talk show looking for a Bible. The bear is just bearing in the woods.
Just bearing in the woods. Why don't you bear down on Russell Brand? That would be my hope. Anyway, I don't wish violence upon anybody except for maybe Russell Brand. Okay, not even Russell Brand. Let's move on. Okay. So we have a lot of show. And before we get to it, we need cash. Give us cash.
Please.
Flip the cushions, dig in your sugar daddy's pockets, or raid the Hegseth You Liquor You Brought Her fund. It doesn't matter. Find some cash and donate to our Patreon.
Really donate to our Patreon. Listen, maybe you aren't already a Patreon member. Maybe you aren't. But if you are not, sign up. It's like amazing. And not only do you get birthday shout outs, you'll also support great content like this and get cool FBK merch and experiences.
I know. We're sad that we don't have any May birthdays. Could that be you? Yes. Yes, it could be you.
All pledges support this pod and all of our activism at Abortion Access Front. And you really want to be on our team. So just go pledge at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.
Do it, do it, do it. And lastly, in our mumbo jumbo, some stuff you should do, mostly what you should do is give to our Patreon section. We have some activism for you to jump on this week. So as we tell you all the time, AAF offers so many opportunities to get active. And one of our favorites is our mutual aid program called Adopt a Clinic.
Adopt a Clinic is an amazing way for the public to support independent clinics, abortion funds, clinic escort groups, and patients directly by ordering much needed items from their wish lists. This week, we are showcasing Jane's Due Process down in Texas. Jane's Due Process helps young folks in Texas access abortion, birth control, and so much more. They have such an awesome upcoming event on May 9th. It's called Bundles of Care, and it will provide young parents with the resources and the connections that they need to thrive.
So if you can, send them some diapers, postpartum recovery kits, and baby wipes. If you're in Dallas, you can sign up and volunteer at the link in our show notes. So let's do that and let's move on because we have a lot to talk about. So Moji, it is time to dive headfirst into our steaming dump of this week's abortion news. Okay, I'll go first.
Please do. Please go first, Liz.
You know, it just seems like this game of who can be worst just keeps upping its ante, and Tennessee is just unbelievably doing the most. So here's the thing. We've talked a lot about Tennessee abortion bans, and Tennessee is just one of the worst states. They have, like, their bans include no rape and incest exceptions, 15 years in jail for providers. If you help someone access abortion, you can be charged with human trafficking.
That's not how human trafficking works, Liz.
No, Moji, it is not. And in March, they introduced a law that would charge somebody who had an abortion with murder. Just terrible.
They really love this charging people who have abortion with murder, which makes no sense.
They love it.
So we cut to this week, a trial 3 years in the making, challenging these horrible bans where people who were affected by them could testify as to what they had to deal with was supposed to start Monday. But the anti-abortion Tennessee Attorney General canceled the trial because of a new state law allowing him to cancel the trial.
I am literally without speech. So how this shit works, we all kind of know, but usually a trial happens in lower court. And then after a decision, the side that loses can file an appeal, and then the fight continues to a higher court. But no, not anymore in Tennessee.
Nope. Tennessee wanted to be sure that they could just screw anyone challenging the shit laws they pass. And so they created a law that says when someone is challenging a state law, well, the attorney general can just anytime just skip a lower court trial and move to higher court. And you know what? That's exactly what he did.
Passing a shit law that bans you from challenging other shit laws is peak Tennessee.
It's like the Ouroboros of evil.
Totally.
And while we're talking about shit places, there's Wyoming.
Oh, I'm so glad that we're doing this story.
Oh my gosh. So in Wyoming, this sexist rodeo clown of a politician just straight up no chaser said, public hangings for judges.
Dude, this is a wild story.
Also, who's doing public hanging, Liz?
I mean, there's people who like vintage everything. And apparently this guy likes a good vintage execution. So
his name is Troy Bray, and he's a sitting Powell City councilman. And he apparently suggested Wyoming just start hanging bad judges after a Casper-based judge on Friday blocked the state's most recent unconstitutional abortion ban.
Here's the thing. Anytime I hear somebody say something completely like bat knickers, I'm always like, they didn't just set a one-off. I'm going to do a little sleuthing to see what else
Oh, you go do one word Google.
Oh, yeah. You know what? And turns out, yes. Couple of nuggets I found. He emailed a Wyoming state senator who helped defeat a bill that would have not allowed COVID vaccine mandates. She's like, yeah, maybe we should have vaccine mandates.
He's like the worst neighbor ever.
He was so pissed. This is what he wrote in the email. And this is a quote. If I were as despicable a person as you, I would kill myself to rid the world of myself.
Yikes on a bike.
Yeah. And then he promoted a measure to not only declare the United States a Christian nation, but also Wyoming a Christian state.
But apparently only the Christian parts where they hang people or where they don't include any commandments.
Fair. That's right. To be fair, he was roundly ridiculed even by anti-abortion judges and politicians, but people are still voting for this guy.
Has anyone checked to see where he was on J6? Because I have thoughts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, guy who's promoting hanging might be New Sky. I don't know, but I feel like, I would look into that as well. Maybe my sleuthing will take us there too. And finally, this last story of our roundup is enraging on every level. So the big headline is scientists have finally created a male birth control emoji that has very few side effects. No effects.
Lucky them.
No effects on testosterone, heart rate, mood, blood parameters, sex drive, nothing. Just clean as a whistle birth control.
You know what? Finally. I mean, they haven't done this for women, but like lightning speed for the men's,
Oh, yes. Always. Right there. Fast.
Also, dudes, did they really need this as much as we did? Like, reminder, condoms have no side effects. I mean,
zero.
Unless you include the throbbing headaches we experience from the incantations they chant. My dick is suffocating. My dick is suffocating. I need it raw.
Oh my God. Mochi, I really think you need shirts that say their dick is suffocating. Oh my God. So this whole story, just every paragraph, I was madder than the next. So the company is called Your Choice Therapeutics, which makes it just also feels like, you know what? Birth control is just that, you don't have to worry about it. You can't get pregnant. It's your choice, but whatever. You don't have to take it. La, 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 la. That. And also, here's the part I think that sent me into the biggest tailspin is that researchers said, quote, for years, we've been trying to create a male contraceptive that doesn't disrupt the body.
For years, we've been hoping to be included in medical studies so that we'll know what hurts us.
I'm really sorry. Things are hard for you.
Also, Liz, why am I reading this in Popular Mechanicus? Does that birth control just come with cool gear?
Probably. Yes, I would guess so.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if they just created it that also allows them to fly or, I don't know, lose weight when they eat a Big Mac.
I mean,
I'd like some of that, please.
Yeah, I'm sure there's all this magical side effecting happening, And the thing that's frustrating is that literally the only side effect free birth control for women is Googling, is fucking men really worth it? That's it.
My misandry has already answered that question, Liz.
I know, mine has too. That's why my vagina is taking a hiatus from anything that has something actually attached to it that naturally comes of it. So that has been your big steaming news dump. Now let's get to the story that has Moji and I's panties all fully up in a wad, up in the you-know-wheres.
Oh, there was a dump of another fact-free hearing at the federal house. Why don't you tell them about that, Liz?
If you are a regular listener of the podcast, you know how much we talk about the FACE Act, and you know how much that we have brought you information about the fact that in the past 5 years or so, kind of pre-Trump administration, we really made some strides at utilizing the FACE Act, and the FACE Act stands for Freedom to Access Clinic Entrances, and it's a federal law that was created in the go-go 90s when there was a lot of harm being done to abortion clinics. There was a lot of violence at abortion clinics. Doctors were being murdered, and we needed a law that would prevent people from actually blocking the entrances to these clinics and threatening the people that work there and the patients that were going there for care.
Which, of course, sounds like a great idea.
Right. Weirdly, I think it might have been the last thing Chuck Schumer did that was interesting, but when he was in Congress, he was actually the co-author of the FACE Act, believe it or not. And so they passed this FACE Act. And the only way they could get it passed was conservatives said, well, you have to protect houses of worship too. So the FACE Act wasn't enforced that much, to be honest. It was really hard to prove because clinics didn't have help gathering the evidence they needed. There was a lot of attorneys general who didn't want to press charges. There was not friendly abortion people, right? So I would say a lot of really cool new abortion organizations that had been formed over the past 15 years really made an effort to try to help clinics bust these people who were violating federal laws and really doing stuff. And it turns out the good work of abortion folks helped get 23 people who were violating federal law. They brought evidence. They were convicted by a jury of their peers.
Not by abortion activists, but by a jury of their peers. I think that's really a thing that you can't put too fine a point on that it was not activists. It was their peers who may or may not believe in abortion, but looked at the crimes and were like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, that's right. And so when Trump took office, he pardoned all 23 people, just blanket pardon. And under pressure from the anti-abortion movement and anti-abortion politicians, and they started this false narrative, fake crusade that said that the Biden administration was prosecuting people who were praying outside of clinics, et cetera. And so they pardoned them all without looking at the cases. And then they said, we're going to do a full study into how much pro-abortion people were feeding the Biden administration information to prosecute religious people, and how many religious people and institutions were targeted and harmed at the hands of pro-abortion people that never really got their day in court. So the study came out a couple of weeks ago, and then the person who is leading the charge is this guy named Chip Roy, and he decided he wanted to hold hearings based on what the study found. And the hearings happened this week.
Chip is from Texas. I just want to remind you of that.
Yeah. And also just a forever reminder that not only is he from Texas, he ran against Wendy Davis, and Texas could have had Wendy Davis representing them, but instead they have Chip Roy. So
basically in these hearings, they wanted to say that the FACE Act is an overreach of the federal government and federal policing, and that really states should be the ones in charge of prosecuting these crimes.
They also said that, again, Biden weaponized the FACE Act, and they tried to say that Biden was soliciting information from like the Southern Poverty Law Center and abortion activists.
They kept saying that Southern Poverty Law Center single-handedly weaponized everything they had to go against these people in cahoots with the Biden Justice Department.
And A, they weren't at the hearing, and B, they acted like Biden was asking them for it when I don't even think the Southern Poverty Law Center was involved in gathering information or being at the clinics or doing any of that. The activists who decided they wanted to protect the clinics were there and provided information to the Justice Department, who then in turn said, we have enough information to prosecute these people. So
they filmed themselves invading clinics.
We watched live streams of them invading clinics.
They were very proud of this until they got caught.
Remember watching a live stream of them saying on the live stream, we're going to go point by point on how you blockade a clinic. It was a training video they did live that we watched.
We saw all of it. And they knew they were breaking the law. They knew this, right? But they just gotten so used to breaking these laws and not seeing any enforcement of the FACE Act.
That's exactly right. And when you look at what was happening before there was Roe, some laws need to be federalized. You know, it's not okay to harm a clinic, bomb a clinic, block the clinic entrance in one state and then not in the other. It's the stupidest idea I've ever fucking heard. And then, like we said, the Biden was weaponizing the FACE Act by soliciting, like we just laid out. They weren't soliciting anybody. People were providing information. And then the FBI was able to make a case based on the information they were given.
Nobody made up information. It was all, and no one even filmed them. They filmed themselves.
I mean, that's the part that was like so next level, is that the amount of live streams they had where they were just like telling on themselves was really wild. So that's kind of like the overview, and that's sort of like the argument they're making and the counter arguments. And so it was the witnesses that the Republicans and the anti-abortion people selected were super telling. So on point one about the debate over saying that, you know, the FACE Act was just overreaching and prosecuting nonviolent activists, they brought this woman, Eva Edel, who I have seen at several protests. She was one of the ones who was blockading the door of a clinic that was being live streamed. She is really old. That's what they want people to think, that the face of the people outside of clinics are older people who are just there praying.
She's also another one who went from state to state doing this.
Yes, exactly. And she's one of these people who she has associated herself with strongly anti-abortion harassers who we have seen all the time. So she may be an older woman who looks slightly frail, but guess what? She is not the face of this movement. She is not an innocent here. And then point two, right? With the bigger part that's not talked about a lot is that part of Project 2025, a big part of it, was to push a repeal of the FACE Act so that they could stop prosecuting harassholes outside of clinics, right? So who are the two other people they brought to be their witnesses, Moji?
Obviously, people from the Heritage Foundation and the Thomas More Society. And these are two big kahunas in the anti-abortion, anti-freedom, let's be honest, movement. And they are lawyers, or they have lawyers, and they are, honestly, they're smart.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the Thomas More Society is the legal arm. They're sort of the shame CLU of the right wing. You know, they're the law firm that does so many of these cases. And then the Heritage Foundation is where, you know, the womb of Project 2025. Exactly.
And so many other terrible things. And it's really interesting, the framing, because they were like, oh, pro-life activism is a social justice movement. And I'm like, what? And it's a movement that is uniquely targeted by the FACE Act. And it's not a social justice movement.
If you are literally blocking people from accessing their doctor's appointments,
healthcare,
that is not a social movement. That is a harassment movement and a terrorist movement. So fuck you.
They also created these false equivalencies, like, oh, or just dumb down what was happening. Like, oh, if you talk to someone outside of the clinic, you can get arrested under the FACE Act. No, talking is protected speech.
That's exactly right. Talking is protected speech.
And then the Heritage guy, who was Roger Severino, and he used to be a civil rights attorney at Health and Human Service, but now he's back at the Heritage Foundation. He called the FACE Act the face of federal overcriminalization. And that sounds, I guess what bothers me is how they twist social justice terms, because it's not, right? The face of overcriminalization is people in jail for marijuana charges, not invading clinics.
So yeah, it's all bullshit. And so basically what the Trump administration wants to do with pressure from these right-wing Chip Roys and anti-abortion extremists is they want to remove protection for clinics from the FACE Act and only leave the religious places in place.
Well, after Roe, there were 11 murders of abortion providers, 42 facility bombings, more than 200 facility arsons, and just thousands of documented incidents and other criminal activity. This is not people talking. These are criminal activity, including assault, bomb threats, acid attacks, clinic invasions, delivery of suspicious and threatening packages, stalking, and harassment. These are just the illegal things. These aren't the people just praying in front of the clinic. No one talks to them. No one cares about them.
Right. And that's just from Roe till Dobbs. And then after Dobbs, there's been over 600 cases of trespassing, 296 death threats, 129 picketing violations, 12 bomb threats, 37 cases of stalking. And so it goes on and on and on. And they just dismiss that entirely. And so testifying on behalf of the, I guess, pro-choice movement was a woman named Professor Jessica Water, who was the professor at American University in their College of Law. And her grilling was sort of vibe of the entire right wing.
It's really when they lost, they fell off the train, right? The train went well off the tracks in her grilling, I think.
They really did. And the conversation from the anti-abortion side, it really just veered very quickly away from, is the FACE Act harassing patients and doctors outside of clinics, and whether that should be a federal law, whether the state should enforce it. All of that stuff went right out the window. And of course, it became a litigation about the abortion procedure itself.
Which is not what this hearing is about.
Not at all. And so we want to play you some clips because there is a young upstart named Brandon Gill, who's a rising star in the party, sort of a TPUSA gotcha maxer. Who started asking questions that were just ridiculous. So let's play the first question.
What's your favorite type of abortion?
I'm an advocate for patients having access to the full realm of reproductive health care.
But do you have a preferred method of abortion that you like?
I do not.
I mean, read through a couple different methods, and I want to get your take on how much you like these. The first type is called a suction abortion. This is when the cervix is dilated and a strong suction, 29 times the power of a household vacuum cleaner, tears the baby's body apart and sucks it through the hose into a container. Do you prefer that method?
Liz, this is abortion porn theater, right? All medical procedures sound like graphic if you go blow by blow. Liz, what's your favorite kind of birth? Let's describe. Is it the one where they cut into a uterus, move the muscle tissues aside, cut into the abdominal, reach inside the uterus, pull out a child, then sew a person back up? Is that your favorite, or just the one where a 10-pound watermelon falls out your vagina?
And then the whole contents and the big bloody afterbirth comes out.
And that's after the hours of cramping and contractions, yes.
And then they take the scissors and they cut the umbilical cord and then tie it up.
It's gross.
You know, here's the thing. It's so gross, but I was thinking about that question. What's my favorite abortion? And I think my favorite abortion is called the congressional suck machine. And it's where you have a sucking device that has 17,000 times the power of a household vacuum. And you attach it to the forehead of a congressperson who's asking a stupid fucking question. And it just sucks their head and their brain right into this machine and takes them back in time, possibly into the womb, so it can be aborted by the other sucking machine.
That didn't sound nearly as gross as anything. I like that.
That's my favorite abortion.
I would go for that one. That's a good one.
So then he went on. His second sort of highlight of the hearing was this.
Do you believe that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare?
I believe the abortion decision should be left to a patient and their doctor and their family and their God.
Do you believe it should be safe, legal, and rare?
I believe it should be safe, legal, and rare, yes.
Okay. Why should it be rare?
Because if we are engaging in public health activities appropriately, we are able to prevent pregnancies when people want to prevent pregnancies. So I think a conversation.
What's wrong with an abortion?
May I finish my sentence?
Sure.
I think if we're actually talking about reproductive health and caring about maternal health, we should be talking about, do people have adequate access to preventative care?
This is such bullshit.
Why should abortion be rare was a question he asked that I was like, yeah, why should abortion be rare?
Yeah. People should have abortions when they need abortions. It doesn't have to be rare. It should be easily accessible. That's the best abortion. And this is just evidence of why this hearing was a sham. Like, he was not talking about the FACE Act at all. He was just doing, I'm going to repeat myself, abortion procedure theater, right?
That's exactly right. And people need to really pay attention to that's what happened, because he went on to say in that hearing when she was like, I'm here to talk about the harassment outside of clinics. And he said, I'm here to talk about abortion. And she should have said, well, you shouldn't be here to talk about abortion because we are here to talk about what happens outside of clinics and how that should be dealt with. And this is the part that I think that makes me so angry, that gets lost, and it's something that we mentioned earlier, but it's the fact that, again, the people that were pardoned, a grand jury said there's enough evidence to go to trial. They went to trial, they were found guilty, and they were sentenced. And it just shows another example of this administration going so rogue and being so lawless and just ignoring the law to do whatever the fuck they want.
But not just ignoring the law, twisting the law, right? Sort of taking the position of the harmed when they are leading the harm, right? It really is a distortion of reality that they're trying to get us to sign up on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's also like, I'm always in my radars on, right? Because you always, somebody's losing when they start talking about something else or the procedure or something that will be a shiny object for their base, and ignoring what the whole hearing was actually about, which is the violence outside of clinics. And what's scary is when you see that desperation, we've seen how destructive they can be when they're panicked. And
yeah,
I feel like I lived that this winter, watching the ICE invasions in Minnesota and just watching how these creepy, awful ICE agents were so power mad. And when the public hated them, they got meaner and meaner. And what that meant for these immigrants, and the untold story emoji really of these ICE invasions is what happened to pregnant immigrants when they were terrorized and they had to receive reproductive care, hiding, in fear of deportation. So seeking care in their homes, not getting care at all. And that's why I was like, after hearing this about terrorism and then them terrorizing clinics and then thinking about that, I'm really excited about our first guest.
She is incredible. She's an activist and reproductive justice thought leader who's been working in this movement for over 18 years. So she's really about it. Currently, she's fighting for all of our rights in her role as the executive director of the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice. Please welcome Lupe Rodríguez. Hello, Lupe. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so happy you took the time. I want to just jump right into it. And would you start by telling us about the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice? What do you do and who do you serve?
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about Latina Institute. Well, we're in the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice. Well, we go by Latina Institute for short because that's easier to say.
Less of a mouthful, sure.
We are a national organization that trains and organizes Latinas and Latinxes from around the country in order to help them, recognize their power, figure out how to advocate for themselves and their families, and organize a base, right, to be able to fight for reproductive justice. We also work to change hearts and minds through media and culture, really thinking about, combating stigmas and mis and disinformation. And finally, we sort of bring it all together. We have three kind of pillars. We work on policy across the country and states and at the federal level to really pass the most progressive legislation to increase access to abortion and other sexual and reproductive health. We try to do all those things together. And the focus is working with Latinas, Latinxes, folks who might not be involved or organized in this movement and in a focused way.
I love that you have those three pillars and every one of them sounds incredible. I really like the part about empowering people to work with themselves. I wonder if you would talk about the connection between immigrant justice and reproductive justice.
For us, we think about the definition of reproductive justice as the basis for this connection that we make. We know that reproductive justice means that all people should have the resources, the opportunity, the power to make decisions about their bodies and lives, including choosing when and if to have children, and importantly, to be able to raise those children in safe and healthy environments, right? And so we want folks to have enough food to eat, have a place to live, free from violence. So for us, all of that means all people in that definition means everyone, including immigrants, regardless of immigration status. And we know that when children are separated from families, like what's happening right now, or any attacks on immigrants, it means that there's a violation of that right to raise our families with safety and dignity, to be together, right? To be able to have the dignity to live in any country, in any place where you are. And so that's the connection we make. And it's super important for us because the folks that we work with are in large part immigrants, are folks from other countries, are folks who might be children of immigrants, mixed status families. And so it's a really important issue for us. And again, we think very core and central to what reproductive justice means. Again, the ability to have children when you want and to be able to raise your children and have your family live in safety.
And I really love that you reiterated that immigrant means everyone. Health equity for immigrants, regardless of status, especially reproductive health care, is under attack during this expanded ICE occupation. What are you hearing from people that may not have made it into mainstream awareness and this impact that it's having on individuals and families?
I mean, there's so many stories, right, being told about the devastating separation of children from their parents, of people being torn away from their families in general, of folks being kidnapped in the middle of the day, right, when they're at work, on their way to work, etc. What we haven't heard is too much about the impact this is having on folks trying to live their daily lives. And some of the things that we're hearing, going to the doctor to get care. And specifically for folks who are pregnant, there are many folks that we're hearing about from our organizing, but also, we're reading reports now from clinicians or physicians saying that folks aren't showing up for appointments and pregnant people aren't showing up for appointments. And so we are concerned about the public health implications of this, of course, and have also been hearing about folks wanting to learn about how to maybe connect with midwives, right? To be able to talk to someone in this moment without having to leave or their homes or go to the doctor, places where they could be kidnapped. And so we're really thinking about, that impact and trying to tell those stories and trying to get folks to tell those stories as well for themselves, to share about like what deep impact this is having on folks' ability to get healthcare. We're also thinking about how this is making a situation that was already made really bad by the abortion bans after the Dobbs decision, where folks who might have pregnancy complications and might need emergency medical care, emergency abortion care, might not be able to get that either. We're monitoring this, we're thinking about it, we're hearing stories about it, and have also heard, as I said, from folks trying to figure out what to do, right? I don't think we're seeing that folks, are just crossing their hands, right? Like they're thinking, well, what else can I do? Can I connect with a midwife? Are there resources for that? And so we're also trying to fill in that picture and support people with that information.
Home birthing can be a beautiful thing, but it's a terrible thing if that's not what you want. And if you're doing it under duress because there are no other options and your option is to birth at home or be kidnapped. It's such a heartbreaking choice that people have to make to stay safe for themselves. I'm going to pivot a little bit into Medicaid because I know that falls into one of your pillars and one of the campaigns that you're working on. And we know that Medicaid plays a pretty vital role in the lives of immigrants and low-income folks and lots of people in this country. How have you seen the cuts that have come in the last year have impacted immigrant Latina communities?
It's been devastating. Medicaid is a lifeline for Latinas across the country. We're twice as likely as our white neighbors to use Medicaid for our insurance coverage. Medicaid covers more than 4 million of us, of Latinas, and 54% of Latina girls. And so cuts to Medicaid are devastating for us. We're already a population that has some of the highest rates of being uninsured. 41% of the total number of uninsured people in the US are Latinos. And so, it really is having a huge impact with the cuts that have already happened and the cuts that are slated to happen at the end of the year. So we're really worried about that and thinking about how to advocate in that space as well, because it's devastating.
You hear 41% and it sounds like a lot, but then when you take into account where the slice of the Latina community fits in the country, it's even bigger, right? It's huge.
Yeah, the impact is huge. And I think it's been that way for a while, right? Because different states have had different sort of ways of approaching Medicaid, of applying Medicaid. In some places, there have been expansions, right? And a large proportion of Latinos, Latinas in this country live in states that have not expanded Medicaid, like Texas, like Florida. And so, those folks are already suffering from not having access to care. Again, 41% are uninsured or disconnected, many more underinsured, right? So not having access to healthcare that's actually accessible and affordable. And yet, we are still able in many places to be able to rely on Medicaid, qualify for Medicaid. And if that goes away, right, it'll create an already awful situation. It'll make an awful situation even worse.
Absolutely. Recently, a panel of judges have made it easier for immigrants with DACA status, which is the deferred action for childhood arrivals, to be deported. Can you talk about how you serve people in that community, what it refers to, and who this affects?
Yeah, so we work with people who have the DACA status, deferred action for childhood arrivals, as you said, and it's a status that was given to people, I think it was in 2012, by President Obama, to be able to support folks. They're called dreamers sometimes, right? Like young people who came to this country really young, don't have documentation status, but have been working, have been going to school, have been, like many immigrants in this country, contributing to our communities and society, and giving them a pathway to be able to work, temporary protection from deportation, and the ability to work, to get driver's licenses, and to live right in the country, the only country they've ever known. And so we organize with a lot of folks who have this status and have worked for a long time to actually try to make some progress around getting DACA recipients access to healthcare. So it's devastating, right, to know that there is now a pathway for this administration to not only take away any of those supports and systems that these communities deserve, but and frankly have been building and helping build in this country. but also that there's now a pathway for folks to be removed from the country. And again, these are individuals who were brought here as young people who have never known any other country in their lives.
This country is committing to a level of retrogression that is appalling, but it's particularly heartbreaking to think that you've lived somewhere your whole life, you know no other place, and the government is working actively to make it harder and uncomfortable.
I think all immigrants are helping build this country.
Yes.
But of course, if you're a young person who's never lived anywhere else, like all of your work, all of your output has been in this country and being taken away in this moment.
Really heartbreaking. Staying with heartbreaking briefly, you spoke on this before, these ICE raids and the deportation and these things like in Minnesota and Vermont and California, where immigrant parents have to navigate life here while trying to keep their children safe under these terrifying conditions. Can you just speak a little bit to what you're hearing from families and how they're navigating this and what they're doing to survive this?
A thing that gives me hope around this is that I know that a lot of people are navigating this and trying to survive this moment by finding community and coming together. I think one of the things that has been surprising and heartbreaking, but also hopeful for me and the team at Latina Institute, is that we've seen more people since all of this started trying to sign up for our trainings, right? Like knocking on our door and saying, hey, I want to get involved. I want to do something. And we thought, of course, the folks were going to be afraid to go out and advocate and be in the world. Of course, we do know that there are people who are scared, who are not leaving their homes, afraid to like take their kids to school or go to work, etc. But there's also a group of folks in the community who have never been activated, who are being activated by this moment. And so that's, I think, super hopeful in that coming together community. And I'll give one example of how I've seen this. We organize with people in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, and we have an annual Christmas event. And we had over 100 people come together in the Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville, in this community center connected to a church, folks from all over the valley coming together. And, this was December 2025, right? In the throes of this immigration occupation, this terrorization. And yet folks were coming together to work, to organize, to be in community. And I think that that's the way that we've seen it, that we're going to survive this, honestly. I think we're going to get through it because we're doing it together.
I really love the way you've spoken to how Latina communities and, of course, Latina Institute are really working to help their community and help this community. How can our listeners help who maybe don't see themselves as part of this community but want to be more helpers in the world, who see what's happening and are like, will not stand for this shit, and they want to be involved? How can they help you, and how can they help the people around them?
I think it's incredibly important to find what you're interested and able to do in this moment. Everybody can do something. And I think a lot of folks feel helplessness, but there are so many different ways that you can be involved in resisting and supporting others, from taking action online, right? Like, and calling your legislators and putting pressure there, to showing up at, a food bank and helping folks with like mutual aid, right? Like, helping folks get food, et cetera, to signing up for Adopt a Corner, right? Where you support people, kids who are coming out of school and like helping them get home, et cetera, or doing things like going to a meeting and going to a training, right? Like signing up for Latina Institute, finding out what you can do. There's so many different ways to plug in right now. And I think the way to do it is just to find one thing that you can do to help out. And I wouldn't be a good executive director if I didn't say, we also could always use your financial support, right? You can go to latinainstitute.org and donate to us, donate to others that move you, who are doing the work on the ground if you're not able.
That was a fantastic button, but I want to hear more about Adopt a Corner.
This is not something that we do at Latinas necessarily, although our teams are like working together with the folks who do this. But I volunteer with the National Day Labor Organizing Network. Basically, we have these pods of people who sign up to like adopt a Home Depot parking lot, to adopt a school. And so we show up on the weekends, or we show up in the mornings to help out with when kids are coming to school. And really, so folks maybe don't have to get out of their cars, right? So we can walk kids from the bus to the school door. So really, stepping in for community there and helping protect them from, potential kidnapping. It's super active way to get involved in this moment and to help defend our community, but I think super fulfilling.
I feel like that's the kind of thing that people who really want to get out and get their boots on the ground might really be excited. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the Latina Institute before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, just again, that if you go to latinainstitute.org, we also have some upcoming trainings, other information. We do a lot of work in various parts of what I mentioned, and, advocacy, policy advocacy, education, communications, and organizing. And so we have trainings and webinars and other sorts of activities all the time. And so just invite folks to join us to find out how you can join the movement and really be a part of keeping our community safe.
Lupe Rodríguez, thank you for joining us and representing the Latina Institute. All of these links will be in our show notes, and we encourage everyone to support. We need you. This fight is for all of us. We are a community, all of us, and we should work together.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here and to be able to have the opportunity to speak to you and all of your listeners.
Liz, that was such an incredible conversation with her and everyone else. As always, these stories will be in the show notes, and you can find the best, most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care, funding your care, all that you need on our website, which is aafront.org.
Our Charlie chatbot on the bottom right will walk anyone anywhere in the country through their options and resources for abortion. Now, we do this show because this information isn't given anywhere in the media, or very little anyway. So help us spread the word, show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. Every little bit helps us reach more listeners.
That is right. Now, the party game that is faster than Monopoly, more fun than Taboo, it's 6 Degrees of Abortion. And this is when I take a story from the news and Liz has 6 chances to link to abortion. So the news this week has been garbage. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. A weird factoid that came across my feed is that Ruby Bridges, the child in the famous picture, one of the first Black children to integrate an all-white school, there's a picture of her surrounded by probably the National Guard, has a TikTok. She has a TikTok list because she's younger than our president. And so in 6 Degrees or Less, can you link Ruby Bridges to abortion?
All right, Ruby Bridges to abortion. Oh, wait. Oh, no. I don't know if I can tie Ruby Bridges. I could tie civil rights to abortion. I could tie civil rights activists to abortion rights activists, I guess. But Ruby Bridges herself, I don't know.
Whoa. I thought that you would get this one, Liz. You know what? Usually I try to map it myself, and this time I didn't. So we might all just be failed.
We just might all be failed.
My point stands, though. Black history is American history. Our rights are fragile, and they have not been here that long, and we need to keep fighting for them.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was trying to think. I just didn't know where to go with that. But Ruby Bridges, thank you for your courage.
And thank you for your TikTok.
And thank you for your TikTok, which is totally amazing.
It's kind of funny.
I love it. I love that Ruby Bridges has a TikTok. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible. All right. Well, Moji wins. Finally. It's been a while. Thank you, Moji.
Yeah, Moji, good job. Good job stumping me.
Also, each week we dive through the bowels of the internet doing what we like to call a misogynistic colonoscopy, and we find the worst of the worst takes on the internet.
And this week we found Trump's new immigration court judge. She believes men experience more domestic abuse than women. She's a divorce lawyer who only represents men. And one of the fantastic men she has represented is good old Roy Moore, the former Alabama Chief Justice and Senate candidate who was accused of sexually assaulting minors and wasn't allowed to go to a mall in Alabama.
Wow. Yeah, she's a peach. What'd she say?
What's this, Melissa?
And really, what she taught me was there's 2 types of women. There are good, solid, valuable women who are major assets to men if you're a good woman, and then there's a warm, wet hole.
Why not both?
Porque no los dos? Can we be all things? We contain multitudes.
We do. And I feel like the warm, wet hole is not exclusive from anything else. In fact, I would say if you were to ask a man what some of the qualities would be of that woman that could service him so well, I don't think he would leave out or single out, more importantly, warm, wet hole. I don't think a man's like, you know what I want is a good Christian woman with a dried up vagina.
My wife went out back. She wove a vagina out of nettles and sticks and spit because she is a good Christian woman, said no man ever.
Is that a trad vag? I think you just described a trad vag.
That's exactly what it is. It's also ew, Liz. Who is this bitch?
I feel like trad vag is something that never needs to be said again. I feel like, do we feel like it's time to move on?
Yeah, it's definitely time to move on.
We're going to transition out of trad vag and into our hilarious next guest. He's a New York-based comedian who was on a journey of becoming both a stand-up and a gay man. And his upcoming special, The Underdog, explains it all. Please welcome Mr. Max Higgins. Hey, Max.
Hello.
Hi.
Max, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I sound like hot garbage, but you're making it all better. So I'm feeling really good.
Oh my God. Well, that means a lot.
So, Max, I have to ask you, as a comedian who started comedy in Minneapolis, moved to the West Coast, then moved to the East Coast. For those who may not think of Burlington, Vermont as a place one would go to start one's comedy career, explain how you got from Boston to Burlington and then in turn started stand-up there, because I'm even curious.
Oh my God. I lucked into Burlington being such a fantastic comedy scene. I moved to Burlington when I was 18 for school. I applied to one college, and it was because my favorite band, Fish, went there.
I knew it. Nobody moves to Vermont unless they love Bernie or Fish. And I knew it. I knew it. Wow.
That was it. I was 18. I thought I need to go somewhere, and I thought they made it there. Surely something good will happen to me there as well. Had never been. Applied to one college. I said, okay. And I went there, and then I stayed. And when I was 22, 23, I just went to the open mic at the comedy club, and I had no idea that there was a scene. And it is fantastic. So I effectively got very, very lucky because I was working in at music clubs before that, at the door and stuff. So in my mind, I wanted to be a tour manager for musicians. I just wanted to be near music and stuff. And then I did it for 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, I don't really like getting yelled at, actually.
It's a babysitter for people who think they know better. It's a terrible job.
Yes. I was in my mind, I thought they're going to see me and be like, you should do something else. But they
they were like, this is exactly what you should be doing, servicing us.
And you're not even doing it well.
Also, as a tour manager, you are literally the bad guy every minute. You're waking people up. You're telling people not to fuck that person. You're telling people you got to go home. You are the buzzkill of their life.
And you're also talking to the venues and you're saying, sorry, they're late. Sorry, they trashed the green room. What do you mean you don't have yellow M&Ms? It's a no-win sitch.
I feel so seen right now because that is exactly what it is. And you both got it perfectly. Everyone's mad at you. And I was like, oh, I'm deeply ill-prepared for this job. I need people to like me.
So how long were you in Vermont?
9 years.
Well, that's a lifetime.
I know. I moved when I was 27. I got there when I was 18. I left when I was 27. Well, and in my mind, when I moved to Vermont, I was like, oh, I'm going to live here forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that for a long time until maybe a year into stand-up, and everyone in town was like, oh, you can't stay here. You actually have to go.
As a Vermont transplant too, are you a Bernie bro?
Oh my God. Yeah. Forever. Yeah, absolutely. My favorite game in Burlington is when you just look around, you go, is that Bernie Sanders or just an old man? And sometimes it is Bernie Sanders, and then often it's just an old man.
I often feel that when I even look at our Congress. I'm like, is that Bernie Sanders or just an old grumpy man?
I live half the year in Minneapolis, and our game is lesbian or just woman in Minneapolis.
I feel like these are the little gay meccas we're not talking about. I'm like, that's actually where it's the most permissible to be gay. You just be however you want. And they're like, sure.
Here's the deal, Max. I didn't realize until I left Minneapolis that you couldn't get laid having chapped lips and hat hair. Oh, wait, you have to maintain.
In New York, we like effort.
Yeah.
You two, this is exactly sort of the like thing that's breaking my brain of the last like 6 months of my life. I'm like, oh, being gay here is a commitment. It's not, you don't just get to opt in.
And
They're
it's
like,
an aesthetic. And you can choose their options, but you have to choose one and commit. I say this not as a part of the community. I'm just watching.
I'm saying it as like, and I get it too, because I see everyone on the train. Like I see everyone. I go, oh, how do you look amazing? I guess I should start looking amazing.
You look amazing.
Also, the straights are looking amazing as well, right? Like I think New York, we're just trying to look amazing. It's a high effort city.
High effort, and I appreciate that.
So I have to ask you, because Moji, I was like, did he move to Vermont because of fish? And I was like, every fucking person I know moves to Vermont because of fish. So now I have to ask you about the fish Halloween shows, because have you seen a fish Halloween show? And if you have, what has been your favorite cover? And what would you want to see? So if you say I haven't seen a fish Halloween show, I'm ending the interview. And so tell me. And I should preface this by saying, for those of you who are like feminist buzzkills, you've never talked about fish in your life, I happen to know this because one of my dear friends is like a complete fish person and talks to me about these Halloween shows obsessively. And then I looked them up and they looked really cool.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. Everyone, I haven't seen a Halloween show, but asterisk, I've seen like every New Year's, but Halloween is usually somewhere crazy. My favorite on the record that I missed was David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust looks so good.
I like cried when they did it, and I went, oh, I should have been there. I cried.
The Velvet Underground one looked also super cool. And the Little Feet one.
Yes, the Little Feet one. And then before we move on from Fish Forever,
I was like, this is such a deep cut, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. You guys are like talking Japanese on the podcast. This is wild.
We're educating the people. You're educating
Moji.
Not Halloween, but in 98, I believe, on November 2nd. So people expect them to play a Halloween cover. Then on November 2nd, they played all of Dark Side of the Moon, because they were like, no one's going to expect us to do it right after Halloween. So That's up there as well.
Also, I hate that record. Pink Floyd, let me tell you. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and I'm ancient. My siblings are ancient. That record reminds me of when my parents were out of town, and then my siblings had a party, and everyone was on acid, and I was like 7, and Dark Side of the Moon was playing, and nobody there was in any conscious state at all to take care of me, and it was the worst night of my life. So whenever I hear Dark Side of the Moon or I hear The Doors, it is so triggering. Anyway, too much information.
And this, Liz, is why you're so resilient.
Yes, this is why I can move mountains, because I've made my way through Roger Waters at all.
Actually, we're going to just pivot away from fish and back to comedy for a second. You start telling jokes to yourself to get through panic attacks. So can you talk about your experience with anxiety and how telling yourself jokes helped you survive?
Oh my gosh, 100%. That period of time, I don't know how it goes for other people, but for me, like the process of coming out was genuinely just like endless weeks of panic attacks. I was like, nothing is what I think it is. I don't know what to do. Reality is crumbling around me. And I've had that kind of stuff since high school, since I was young. And I think like many people, I don't know, I certainly went in, like I had a big like interior thing I built out to cope with everything. Mm-hmm. And one part of it that I don't think I realized until around coming out, one part I didn't realize was like, there is a lot of humor built into the way that I deal with things. And it was like, getting to a point where I'm listening to my thoughts. I'm like, I think this is set up punchline. Like these are straight up jokes. Because I'd just be up so late. And it's funny to be like, what does your brain do when you've sort of come to the end of like reason and the end of like logical thought? And for me, it was like, I guess I'm laughing now.
So can I ask you a question that I don't know that I know the answer to in reading and watching you? Did you have a coming out and a second coming out? Did you come out as queer and then come out as trans? Or did you go from I am me too. Now I'm going to realize my full self.
Yeah, it's funny because this is sort of in the hour that's coming out in May.
Okay.
I effectively had one coming out it started sort of secretly, where I was like, I had never identified as queer in any sort of way. I just sort of started doing all of these things like, I just need to look a little bit different. I just need to cut my hair. Nobody worry about it. I'm just going to start going by a different name again. No one worry about it. I don't know what this is. I think I need people to start calling me different pronouns. It's just, and eventually people go, well, there's a word for that.
It's called
you're transgender. I was like, oh. One of the first ever jokes I did was like, I don't even know if it's that funny anymore, but I'm like, I didn't come out so much as I like decided to gaslight one small town. I was like, I've always gone by Max. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love that.
It's cute. It's like fun.
Like, oh yeah, my dead name never existed. Who are you referring to?
Who? And I would say though right now it's been sort of a second coming out in like realizing that I am gay, like in sort of the original way that I thought in high school gay meant. I'm like, oh, I'm a man who likes men. Oh, okay.
You just can't quit men.
I simply can't quit.
Yikes, Max. Yikes.
You know, Max, it's such a bad time to not be able to quit men. I'm not going to lie. Moji and I are trying to quit men.
Say trying. Seriously. Ugh.
Wait, how's it going?
I have a 10-year-old.
She's raising one. Okay, so I have to ask you then, because you just dropped this really amazing half hour. That's really fun. And then you have this hour coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of it is about your transition journey. So I was curious to think, like, are you doing this because all of the trans folks in my life are so tired of explaining? Like, they're so tired of explaining over and over again. So I wanted to ask you, is this your, like, just refer to the special? Like, I don't want to tell everybody all the time. So now I've just created a tome with which you can enjoy.
That's really funny because I think yes, but it's everyone refer to the special both about my transition, but also just sort of my life. Like a lot of it is context for who I am. I think it comes out of the like early stand-up, Write What You Know. And I remember thinking, I think my life has been weird. I'm just going to put it here. And I think a little part of me now is like, everyone just check that out. It's funny because it's not out yet, but in my mind, it's sort of behind me in a way.
Right.
So it's actually going to be, people are going to be seeing it for the first time. And I'm like, you don't know this yet? I think it's a little bit that. And then, what early in stand-up, I think that was so exciting to talk about. So it's also just like, it comes out of that as well.
Why did you call it The Underdog?
I think it has to do with like the being transgender, looking back at my life of like being mixed race in Boston. And then it was like coming from sort of like an interesting, weird family situation. I look at all these stories and I go, oh, that's who you think you are. But now who are you really? Is sort of like the question behind all those stories as they go together. And it kind of felt like, I don't know what else to call this. Like, that's who you think you are right now.
But with it being behind you, do you feel like maybe you're not the underdog any longer? Or you still got that?
No, I mean, I think there will always be a little of that. But also the process of transition is being like, oh, I'm okay. I'm not that person from,
Yes.
It's funny. I actually have an original recording of it that's like early transition. Like I look different, I sound different. And then I just recorded this in November where I look and sound more like this. And I'm going to put a little bit of that old one in there just to see. But I think I'll always feel a little bit that. And I'm a little bit not anymore.
I don't know if you know Ian Harvey. He's a really good friend of ours.
No.
Oh, Ian Harvey, incredible comedian, trans man from Maine. That's why I wondered if you knew him, because a Mainer,
Yes.
Ian lived as a lesbian for many years before Ian transitioned. And Ian talks about it a lot and just how that is still part of him.
Yeah.
And yet it feels very much not him at all. Like in the same, he goes, I can hold those feelings all at once. And it's just a really interesting way. It's just kind of like you said, I want to throw that in because it's part of the deal.
Yeah, it is such a funny experience. It's like I both am those things and I'm not anymore. I don't know.
No, I mean, we all contain multitudes. I feel like we all are some of our experiences. And then you can look back at who you were and be like, that person's always with me, but I am a new person. Everyone get with the program.
And I feel like really anytime that I see somebody who's able to like bring their truth out, and a trans person who has this platform with which people can learn about what it means to be a trans person, and that it's just this glorious, just like any other human. You're giving trans folks and you're giving regular folks who just want to learn about what it means to have a lifestyle that they don't know, or a person that they're meeting for the first time, and maybe that's on a screen. You're helping people understand that, you know, we just live in a world with a lot of different people, and let's try to get along, except for fuck Trump.
Except for, yeah, always and forever. And I feel like, Max, we've talked about all these, you know, dramatic things about you that are also just your life. What is the most basic thing about you? Like, what is the most, actually, I'm just a dude who lives in Vermont. I'm just a dude from Boston.
That's, oh my God. I mean, that I like baseball is so many facts about me. Like when you put them in context of being a guy, it's like, oh, you play guitar a lot, but not that much. But like, you have one? Yeah.
Is it hanging on your wall? Because that's the most basic dude shit ever.
The mount is under my bed because I went, let's take it off the wall. Let's take it off the wall. It could just be in the corner.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Max. That is hilarious.
Last week I was like, maybe I'll put it back up. No, but now I won't.
It's always there. It's always there.
Now that we've talked, it's going to stay off.
Max, this has been so fun talking to you today. Can you tell people where to find you and where your special Underdog is dropping?
Yes, the Underdog's dropping on YouTube. You can go to my website, maxheadgear.net, and I post everything there. I'm on Instagram at max_headgear. The special will be there on YouTube, linked out through all that stuff. I just released a half hour on YouTube called The Burlington Half. My hour special, The Underdog, is dropping on YouTube on May 29th.
Fantastic. And on social, where are you again?
I'm at max_headgear.
That's amazing. Max, so good to talk to you.
Yeah, so great. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having me on.
Go follow Max everywhere and watch his special when it drops. Links are in the show notes, of course.
Liz, my favorite warm, wet hole. That's our show.
Am I your favorite warm, wet hole? That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
So thanks again to Lupe Rodríguez. And go to latinainstitute.org and donate, and support all the work they do.
Okay, you know what question I'm asking right now, Moji, right?
Ooh, tell me.
Did we make you smarter? Did we make you laugh?
I laughed.
I laughed very hard. If we did, again, you've got to show us some love. You got to like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening to this. And you know what? If you want to really make a difference, leave us a review. Short, long, it doesn't matter. All of these little interactions with the like and the subscribe and the reviews help us bump up in the searches and helps us reach more people. And if you really love us, and I mean if you really, really love us.
And you should love us because we're lovable.
That's right. Join our Patreon, people. You get merch, you get content, you get experiences, and you get to support all of our work here and at AAF. Just go to patreon.com/feministbuzzkills. Do it now.
Do it now. And also, our socials are thebomb.com. We bring the news and the info every single day to the socials, and you can stay connected with us by going to @AbortionFront at any platform. Anyone, we're there.
Even Blue Sky?
Even Blue Sky. And with your help, we can get more people to learn about this ongoing assault on abortion access and fight with us.
Okay, now that we have you informed, now let's get you activated. You can check out our awesome Operation Save Abortion trainings at operationsaveabortion.com. There you get activist glow up and learn all the areas abortion providers and patients need your help. So do it.
While you're there, you can poke around, and our activist calendar has so much cool shit. It's full of local and national actions and educational opportunities. So you can just dive right in. Again, all of that is at operationsaveabortion.com.
And even more ways to get involved would be to volunteer with AAF. We need you. So go to our website, aafront.org, fill out the volunteer form, and let's get you to work.
Tune in next week. We're going to be back, and we will be joined by Michigan-based OBGYN and author Nikki Sapiro-Vinkier. And she'll spill the tea on how she sued the state of Michigan and won. And we'll discuss her new book, We Deserve More, Why Reproductive Health Care is Broken, and what you can do about it. It will be a fantastic conversation.
She is also a great social media follow. She's super funny. She's super informative. She is great. And we are thrilled to check the board with award-winning digital creator, author, and diversity advocate, and host of the It's Really Very Simple podcast, Rashonda Lias.
I love her socials, Liz. I love it. Another incredible social follow. Oh my gosh. The Feminist Buzzkills podcast is edited and produced by Remy DeTournay and Jin Moon for Abortion Access Front.
That's it, folks. We'll see you next week with all the good peeps. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.